have been well trained.
No.
You don't have to carry a sword to be powerful.
I won't fail you.
Or do not.
I'm not afraid.
Please don't try.
That's awesome.
Put the two back.
David is legitimately one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Like, I don't think that guy who plays enemy is like he is genuinely a nice person. Very, very cool guy.
Alright, scouts, that's declared. You guys have 35 minutes.
All right, y'all.
Sarah, are they ready?
The Chance Cube stream of the Trilogy's tournament here at Nova Open. I am Minion Kroll, aka Running Onion, and joining me.
Yeah, my name is Sugi from the Knights of Ren, Mr. Mill 1 and 2. So we don't know anything about these decks because they're clearly not mill decks. Yeah, droids mill.
So
I don't know.
It looks like we've got Satine droids by Joe. I believe that's Joe from the Hyperloops. And it's Joe Quillen,
Yeah,
right?
yep, I believe you're correct. Yep.
And on the right is
Also Joe. But we're not going to worry about semantics. These are both very talented players here at Nova Open out here in Virginia, which is really exciting. Except for that game we just played with Ewoks versus Palpatine. It was gross. Got blown up. Anyways, let's talk a little bit here about the deck. So Joe is playing Satine droids, so tell us, Minion, a little bit about what this deck does to the opponent.
So Satine droids is basically about making money and then spending the money on efficient upgrades and killing or supports and killing the opponent. On the other side, we've got as opposed to mill. I just wanted to make that
Yeah, we want to make it very clear. We as mill players don't understand what damage is or how it works because we don't deal in those variables. We like to slowly look at you and tell you about our day.
So there's a Dead or Alive on Satine, which gives his opponent a resource whenever he activates the character. And
So over here we're looking at Dengar the Horrible and Jango Fett. And these are two bounty hunters. So they're going to be utilizing a lot of different cards that are bounties, per se. And they're going to get a lot of different abilities on activation, on different triggers. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play out because they are somewhat reliant on certain rolls or certain activations and certain sequences to get, different things to happen. And it just depends on what cards are in the deck.
And that's I think it's the Sonic Detonators, and he's supposed to put 6 resource tokens on it to count how many times he can do 2 damage to each of his opponent's characters. We'll see if he figures that out on the Jango.
So going in, the droids are going to probably be a bit more aggressive, just because they're going to be looking for early activation. They're looking for a lot of consistency, being able to roll out R2 and 3PO and either choke your money out or create money or whatever they really want to do. But we see the bounty hunter play, what is that, Most Wanted? That's the one where when you die you draw 3 cards, right? On R2?
I believe that one is draw 3 cards. I think that's Deathmark? Draw 3 cards? Can't quite read it.
Being a male player, I don't know what these cards mean.
I'm not familiar enough with the bounty art. So Dengar, when he activates, he can deal 1 damage to a character with a bounty.
Yeah, it's almost like a bad version of what's that red one I played on you earlier today? Target acquired, yeah. So you can put bounties on targets, and then upon activation, you get little bits of plink damage, which can add up because R2 only has 8 health, and that's not a lot. And you can see some pretty significant rollouts from Jango and Dengar if they just roll out crazy because their maximum value is 2. So you can see Dengar roll out 4 damage with a plink, And then, if it doesn't get mitigated, he can just put 5 damage straight into R2 if he wants.
So Joe just played Hans Blaster on R2.
Thank you.
And Hans Blaster lets you remove a dice showing damage when you play it. So Dengar had to remove his 1 damage, and then R2 lets him focus his dice.
So we've been told that the downgrade, the bounty on R2 is wanted, and when that character is destroyed or whatever, defeated, you gain 2 resources. So clearly the bounty hunters want to eviscerate R2 as quickly as they can, so that not only will they remove some of the reliability in the deck, but they'll also gain a bit of a econ boost.
Also, R2 is showing 5 total damage right now, and it does not look like Jango Dengar has anything to do with it, so that is going to be a chunk of damage coming in.
They could play easy pickings. Now, it wouldn't be a legal play, but it would be a good play.
On multiple levels. It would not be legal.
Yeah. Considering A, they don't have resources, and B, it's a hero card.
And C, this is Trilogies.
Yeah, about that. This is Trilogies for everyone watching. Don't know if you knew that, but it is Trilogies. So that would be a hilarious thing to see. But moving on, realistically, let's talk a little bit about what the bounty hunters have to do, because we've seen droids pretty much everywhere in the meta, so they're a pretty commonly known deck. The cards that they have access to in Trilogies are maybe a little different, but the bounty hunters are a little bit more unique. We don't see them nearly as often, and we need to probably address what are they trying to shoot for here?
So, I do believe that this, I don't know if it is the list, but it looks like it was at least inspired by the list that won a Trilogies GQ in Europe, I believe a couple weeks ago. So, it is a legit list for people who might be taken aback by that pairing given the standard meta. What it's basically trying to do, I would assume, is to be aggressive, try to kill a droid as early as possible with the Dengar ping, and there's just a plethora of damage sides on Jango and Dengar. They've each got 3 damage sides on each dice.
Alright, we just saw a removal spell. Do you know which one that is?
I do not recognize that artwork either.
That's fair.
Is that the Electroshock? Is that the
yeah,
Electroshock
that is
reprint?
Electroshock, yeah.
Okay.
So we just saw a quick trade. R2's got 2 on him, but he just shot 5 into Jango. So
Shield on R2.
So this is probably one of the worst places for the bounty hunters to be, is there's no dead anything. They really want that turn 1, or injure to the point where they can quickly remove it at the start of round 2.
This is also a point where R2 is extremely dangerous, because on an ambush activation, he can activate, focus one of his dice, and then with the ambush activation, or with the droid's day out, C-3PO can resolve both of those dice, increasing them by 1. So there is a very real possibility that Jango could almost die on an R2 rollout.
Now you do have to use the Faithful Companions activation for that.
Right.
But we're not going to see that. Joe
Yep.
is going to activate manually, which sounds weird for droids.
Slow and steady.
Yeah, so we have a Disrupt and a Money. So no damage on the table, but he does have the capacity to threaten whatever he wants, because he can flip. When you activate R2, you're allowed to flip to whatever side you want if you spot C-3PO, which, as we see in the middle of the left-hand player side, C-3PO is healthy with a shield. So R2 is going to have a field day and flip into 2 damage, which he can then resolve for 3 damage after C-3PO's activation.
Right, and it looks like he was considering the Fateful Companions, and he does do the Fateful Companions on the Hans Blaster to do R2's ability a second time and put it just to max damage on both dice.
Right, so we could see, unless we see mitigation here, we will see C-3PO activate, roll out. Doesn't really matter what he rolls, because he's going to probably resolve the Hans Blaster for 4 damage at the cost of 1 resource. I would assume into Jango, putting him at 9.
So Jango did play an armor plating on his first action, so he does have 2 extra health, essentially, that he can block with.
And that's kind of one of the things that Destiny does, is when your characters are threatened to either be removed from play or severely hampered, you need to activate them to get those dice out on the table and see what kind of resources you have available to you with your dice sides. Unfortunately, Jango's going to roll a lot of money, which It's tricky because he could get the money he needs in order to play some serious upgrades on Dengar, but what he really wants to see there is damage, which did not happen.
And I think in particular he wants the special on the sonic detonators, so that he can do the special on sonic detonators would let him do 2 damage to any number of the opponent's characters.
Right. He can throw those...
So that's representing 6 damage against a 3-character team.
Yeah, throw the Mountain Dew flavored eggs at your opponent. Gets gross. Take sticky damage.
So that's the disruptor something or other on Dengar.
That's the official name of the card.
It is.
If you're gonna play it, it's the disruptor something or another.
So
if you use outpost on it, you have to specifically say disruptor something or another.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you can call a judge and they'll definitely tell you done goofed.
And that one is interesting because it is unblockable damage for anything that dice is modifying or that modifies it. So
here we're going to see R2 pop 4 damage into Jango. 2 of it's blocked. So Jango is now at 9 damage out of 11. So we're going to have to see what happens here because it's not looking great, but the heavy damage dealing dice are off the table, so we might see something from Satine, but she's indirect damage, so it's not going to be easy to just eviscerate Jango right now.
And Dengar is showing a lot of damage that will be going into the R2. That's 1 shy of what he needs to kill R2.
This is where easy pickings really feels bad, but he can't play it because it's trilogies.
Right. And easy pickings would be a win for the Dengar player.
Uh-oh. So we're going to call this the Big Blaster Gunnahui? Because
that's Chewie's Blaster, which when you play it, you get to deal a damage to that character and roll the dice in. What's interesting about that play, though, is that it puts R2 in lethal range of Dengar's dice.
But he does have the capacity to take Jango out, which I think is probably a good trade. I'd rather trade an R2 for a Jango.
That's fair.
I mean, it's tricky. Like, you don't want to force a 1-for-1, but your 8 health character versus an 11 health character that can stack and create a ramp. I wouldn't be too disappointed in that.
And Satine still hasn't activated, and C-3PO's on double focus, so that's a guaranteed 4 indirect that could be coming out this round as well, depending on how Joe does his focusing.
Right. So, this is one of the most interesting things about Destiny. It's not too different from chess. A lot of the best players in the world are generally 2 to 3 actions ahead, and they're processing what they have now, kind of the Tetris style. They have this, puzzle where they're deducing, what do I have? What am I going to have? How do I manipulate those variables so that in a couple of rounds I can either have dead characters or quasi-dead characters and, keep pressure on my opponent.
So the Jango player used his plot to remove one of his bounty hunter dice to deal 2 unblockable damage to a character that has a bounty on it. I think that's what the full plot text is.
I'm really glad you know that. But you don't know the name of the Whatchamahoosit Blaster.
It's the Disruptor something or other.
That's right.
We went over this.
That's right, you're right. I'm sorry. It's the Disruptor Muhammad or something.
So now he is showing, looks like they're going to do a character trade. Jango for R2.
All right, we're going to do the dance. So Jango is out, which puts the Dengar character into a interesting situation, but he does get to net 2...
Oh, that was the draw 3 cards.
Oh, that was draw 3.
Okay,
we were right. It was draw 3 cards. So his hand got a little bit of gas. He can pick and choose what he wants to keep and then discard the rest at the end of the round. So in terms of being able to dig through the deck, this is good for the Dengar player. But he's still going to have to deal with Satine dealing damage, which indirect damage is still direct damage now.
And also the Satine player has 1 resource and is showing at least 2 more for potentially some supports coming out this round.
So we kind of know where we're going to be going here by the end of the turn. What is the play for the Dengar player? Because he is 100% at a deficit right now. He doesn't have any major upgrades. He's only rolling 3 dice. You still have R2's dead, but you still have 3PO allowing you to resolve dice at a +1.
It looks like there might be... Is that a Bacta in his hand? Or Dengar's?
I don't know. We're about to find out.
Now, there is a card that lets you resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by the number of bounties on an opponent's character. So Dengar might be threatening that on Satine, or he might just be clearing his hand of all the useless downgrades that he's got
Or his
before
die
the
could be
next round.
removed and,
Or it could be removed.
All the things we said about the Whatchamahoo's Blaster just don't... Oh, here we go. An upgrade. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this power action is the roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it again, or resolve it kind of thing.
It's roll it, resolve it, roll it, resolve it, roll it, resolve it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Semantics. It's a lot of rolling. And sometimes you resolve it.
Right. You have to resolve it each time,
Not if
or
it's
else the
blank.
chain stops. No blanks.
Aha!
It does have pay sides, though, so you can't get stuck on a pay side with it.
There you go. So now that we've gotten that cleared up for, yours truly. Oh,
Second Chewie's Blaster.
that's,
the first Chewie's makes a lot more sense now.
Ah, alright, so there's a lot of pressure coming out. And the thing is, once 3PO activates, if he gets a really good roll, he can resolve the Chewie's Blaster for +1, which, what's the maximum value on that? 3 for 1?
4 for 1.
4 for 1? So he could deal 5 for 1 if he gets lucky.
Yeah, he'd have to pay to... He has to pay to increase the value of C-3PO now because he can no longer spot R2.
Yeah. So Dengar rolls out blank, 2 damage, 1 disrupt, which... not feeling super good right now. So at this point, there's a lot of push for the droid's deck. They have a lot of means to get damage into Dengar. He's only got 6 health left, which is a very... What's the word? It's a very approachable number with the
Right.
dice available, but it's not over.
So, the flip side of that is that the Pulse Cannon is really, really scary. It can do a lot of damage out of nowhere. And it looks like Joe might not want to have anything to do with that. He's breaking out the flank on just the Dengar die.
I don't disagree with that because that's really the most threatening thing on the table. And, there's only 2 resources for the Dengar player. So
Right.
he could roll into things he can't pay for eventually. But the other thing is if he does just shoot a bunch of damage out, he won't have money for mitigation, which gives the droids the capacity to just kind of do whatever they want, and that's really not a place you want to be in.
So the Dengar player will get 2 resources when Satine activates, because I believe that is 2 Dead or Alives on... No, it's 1 Dead or Alive and 1... The other one might be the one where you get to play an equipment when the character dies. Enticing reward.
So here's the big roll. If he gets the 4 for 1, we're going to see a lot of damage. Did not... Oh, yep. I think that is... Yep.
So he can't pay to increase it by 1 and pay for the resource side. So if he does resolve it, it just has to be 4.
But still...
Which is what he does.
The capacity to roll and resolve is still great because you can't mitigate it. So it's
And-
just there.
And the other thing is that with the math now, Dengar is dead to a 2 indirect side from Satine.
All right, we're going to have the power action, so we're going to see some roll, resolve, roll, resolve, roll, resolve, resolve some rolls. And I'm really hungry. I shouldn't have said that. Here we go. And we have...
3,
All right, here we go.
2.
2 more.
So this is
the
a 1 and
second-
6 for the kill.
And
he gets it.
All right.
Actually, it might be better than 1 and 6. It
No.
might have 2, 3
He has
sides
2.
on the pulse cannon.
All right, so Minion, let's talk about what just happened.
So that's essentially the edged play that I was in favor of, flanking the pulse cannon instead of the Dengar die. So Dengar is still in the game now. However, Satine is still at the point where all she needs to do is show 2 indirect and not have it removed. But that did pull the game way closer.
Now, Satine does have 2 dice, and she also has the Jabba reroll built in, so let's see what she gets. Okay, nothing, so you're going to target one of your dice and reroll it, I presume, unless... Well, let's see, the players are pointing something.
I think they're resolving the after activate money from the downgrades.
Okay,
And it looks like Joe declined to reroll.
interesting, okay.
So Bounty Hunter Mask comes down on Dengar to give him an extra health, so now he is no longer dead to a 2 indirect side.
He's dead to 4 indirect,
That is correct.
because, we do math.
But the 2 indirect side is much more likely, though, because any of the focuses also essentially represents 2 indirect.
Clearly, Joe's got some... Oh, what's this?
Oh, that is what I was talking about earlier. On the hunt, you can resolve one of your dice showing ranged, I believe, increasing its value by the number of bounties. So that one gun resolved for 4 into Satine.
So we have a really interesting swing where Satine has 4 health left. Dengar has... Well, no, she's got 5 damage on her. So yeah, she's got 4 health left. Dengar's got 3 health left. But we have a So
the Fickle came out, it rolled the 2, which is not quite lethal due to the Bounty Hunter mask.
But it still feels bad.
Right.
Just like a bad Taco Bell meal.
So we'll see if Joe goes for the 1 and 6s to find the 3 for 1.
Oh, you know he's going to do it.
For the win.
No,
there's the 2 again.
There's a 2.
He's got to hold Satine on the resource in case he finds the 3 for 1, because he is out of money.
So at this point, I'm going to speculate and say the Dengar player does not have removal, because if it was me, I would have done that last action.
I believe the Dengar may have claimed.
Maybe? I didn't see anybody point to anything, so it is possible.
Maybe not yet. So there's a target acquired being discarded for another reroll.
Oh.
Blank.
This feels bad, Mr. Krabs. I mean, I'm just going to wager if he's shuffling his cards. Well, no, he hasn't done anything, so maybe he did claim. 1 and none. Ouch. Okay. So here's the question. Clearly, Dengar's going to go first. What does he need to put pressure into Satine to try and get this win?
So when he activates, he will do 1 damage, just with Dengar's ability.
Putting her at 6 out of 9. So
he can use his plot to pull one of Dengar's dice showing any symbol to do 2 damage, but the real threat is still the Pulse Cannon, because the Pulse Cannon represents a likely kill.
Alright, so what does Satine do here? That's the thing.
Riot Shield is a good choice, so now he's got to do 5 total.
Alright, here we go.
So he's power actioning the Pulse Cannon with knock the Riot Shield off.
Alright, there's 1.
There's 1 more.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, well...
Alright, so
let's recap really quickly, a little bit. So we saw a really interesting start coming out of the droids, as they usually play. Very aggressive, very fast. But we also saw the power of the bounty hunters be able to take a slow roll, get some tricks out, some bounties on their opponent, which gave them a lot of late game options, which they got lucky with some of their rolls, and it definitely helped using that cannon.
And there's also a lot of automatic damage coming out of the Dengar deck, which once you kill... This has always been a weakness of the droid side, is that once you kill either C-3PO or R2, the deck slows down a lot. The Fateful Companions mostly goes offline. And there was just that big roll from the Pulse Cannon to kill C-3PO kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that was an excellent game. Both players made very difficult decisions, and they were both really fun to watch because there was just a lot of stuff that could have gone wrong and could have gone right, and I think they both played to their outs. And, you know, that's, once again, one of the best things about Destiny is it's more than just cards and dice. There's a lot of foresight, there's a lot of comprehension with what you have, what you could have, and playing to some outs that may not be likely, but you have to play to them because that could be the only way to win the game.
Right. But good game, well played to both of the players.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you to the Chance Queue for hosting the stream here at Nova. For all of you who are watching and weren't able to make it, definitely, subscribe. Keep an eye out because we're going to be streaming all weekend long. Tomorrow is Standard. Tonight is Trilogy, for those of you who don't know, because we didn't see that easy pickings. I really wish we saw. But, you couldn't play that without getting yourself disqualified.
Right.
This coverage of Star Wars Destiny is supported in part by our patrons. The Chance Cube wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the support of our patrons. We appreciate each and every one of you who generously support us in our mission to explore Star Wars Destiny and educate players along the way. We couldn't do it without you. If you would like to join our friends in high places, then head over to patreon.com/The Chance Cube. $1 a month goes a long way to maintaining and growing content like this and much more. And special thanks to Jim Goss, Derek Bertram, and Nathan Henderson for their generous support as top tier patrons.